Hello, I'm Josh Hallam, you are listening to Just Films and That. This is the podcast where we talk about films we think are underrated, underseen, or perhaps we just wanted to take a look at them. This week it's just that, because it's Alice's 100th episode, so as a special treat, we're going to talk about Terminator 2. Let's see what we think, but I think we already know. So, Alice.
Josh.
Here we are.
Here we are. It's
100 episodes of Alice
100,
as the co-host.
That sounds like so many, doesn't it? That's a whole lot of me.
Feels like a lot.
Feels like an eternity.
It has felt like a lot, if I'm honest. So 100 episodes of you. Thank you very much. So far, so good.
Okay.
So as a special treat, I thought, well, it's about time we talked about what is one of, if not your favourite film, which is, of course, as you've gone on record many times to say, is Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
I know. What if I hated it this time around, though? Can you imagine? What if I just completely messed up the episode?
I just thought, this shit.
This is terrible. This is terrible.
So, for the people at home, for the one or two people in the universe who've not seen this film, obviously you don't know. You didn't pick it. I picked it for you.
I didn't pick it. This is why it's really exciting as well. So you picked it for me. What a treat. Thank you so much, Josh. I do appreciate it.
It's all right. So tell the people at home, what is Terminator 2 Judgment Day about? And is it your favourite film, I suppose, is the first question.
So Terminator 2 is the sequel to Terminator, which isn't called Terminator 1, but that is what I used to call it when I was a kid. And we're basically, John Connor is now alive. He is a young child. If you've seen the first film, you'll know all about him. Sarah Connor has been committed to a psychiatric hospital, and they are just going about their lives separately until the T-800, who we saw in the first film, comes back. But he's not alone, because another robot comes back too, the T-1000. And suddenly it's like, why have both these robots come back in time? Who's going to do what? Who's the bad guy? But it turns out that Arnie Schwarzenegger, the T-800, is actually the good guy. He's here to save John, to save Sarah, and to make sure everyone lives happily ever after. So it's all about that. It's all about them trying to stop Judgment Day, which obviously we hear so much about in the first Terminator. And, you know, really, by the time we get to the end of this film, it is all kind of nicely wrapped up and everything could have ended there. And in my mind, kind of, it does. Terminator Salvation was obviously all right, but no need to carry it on. It was a nice wrapped up little story, but there we are. Is it my favourite film of all time? Well, it's the one that I say, like a few years ago, I was like, if I was going to do a top 5 or a top 10 of my favourite films, what would they be? And I was like, I genuinely think I'd put Terminator 2 up there as the first one. And I was like, and that's quite an interesting one as well. Like if people ask you, what's your favourite film? Oh, well, it's Terminator 2. You know, it's just, it's a bit of a conversation starter. So I ran with that and I just sort of held that there in that top spot. But this is obviously the first time that I'm watching it with a critical eye, and it is the first time that I've seen it in quite a few years as well.
Oh, really? I got the impression you watched it all the time.
No, I don't watch it all the time. I watched it a lot when I was a kid, so I know that there is a lot of nostalgia kind of within this as well, and, you know, those fond childhood memories of watching terrifying action films because my parents were just so irresponsible. So yeah, I reckon it is my favourite film, and having watched it again, I would definitely keep it in that top spot, you know. Okay. Definitely keep it in that top spot. Okay. What about you, Josh? Had you seen Terminator 2 before?
So, watch it again. I was fairly certain I'd seen it all, right?
Right.
I don't think I'd ever sat and watched this film from start to finish before.
Ooh,
so I'd seen most of it. Definitely seen most of it. But as I was watching it, I realised I hadn't seen a lot of the stuff in the hospital. I hadn't seen a lot of basically the first half an hour.
Right.
I must have seen it at some point, but I was watching the whole thing going, I don't remember any of this.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe, was it one that maybe you'd seen mostly like on TV and so you're just kind of tuning in halfway through sort of thing? I think
that's probably right, because I've definitely seen it. But there was
Arnold Schwarzenegger is, right?
Yeah, he's a minor independent film actor.
Oh, yeah. That's him.
So, anyway, let's get stuck into talking about it. Now, I don't know how this is going to go. I haven't got loads of notes for this, because this is all about you talking about a film that you love.
All about me.
So, we'll follow the structure of an episode like we normally do. But essentially, I'm about to just open the gates for you here and say, Alice, what do you like about Terminator 2? And I'm just going to sit back and listen to you crack your knuckles and crack on.
Well, certainly, but I would like your input as well, and
Of
I'm
course.
keen to hear what you think
It's
about
rubbish.
certain things. So,
It's absolute no.
Oh, no, but that's interesting if you do think that, and then we can have a debate, and that'll get exciting and probably quite heated.
We'll see.
Yes. So there are many, 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 many things that I like about this film, but I'm really going to try and keep this list concise and just go into detail about a few points. So first off, in general, so I love the story. I love the story progression. I love the characters. I love the direction. Some of the script is great. The practical effects and the stunts and the way it looks in general are all brilliant. The music is phenomenal. And there are also some moments of light comedy in there as well that I enjoyed. So I am going to go into greater detail about a couple of those things. The first thing that I want to talk about is the way that the characters are introduced to the story, right? So our key characters all get this brilliant introduction. We see Sarah Connor, who is in her tiny little hospital room being gawked at by doctors and like student doctors. And her first line is, "Good morning, Dr. Silverman. How's the knee?" And I feel like you just get so much from that line, from that delivery of like the situation she's in. She's there doing pull-ups on her bed that she's turned on the side.
Badass.
She is badass, man. Like bringing slight Lara Croft vibes as well, I thought. And it just, one of my favorite action heroes ever is Sarah Connor. So she's got a brilliant introduction. We see the T-800, who is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who obviously comes back in time. We've got some brilliant kind of, even though, you've got to take into account, obviously, that this was, 1990 or, the very early 90s.
It must have been made in 90, released in 91, I think.
So they use these kind of lightning effects and lots of wind to show when the robots come back from the future, so into the past or into the present day. And you're like, oh my God, it's him. He's back. Like, he's the bad guy from the first film. And then you see the T-1000 come back. And then it's like, oh, well, who the heck is this guy? Why have we got two guys? Is he a human? What's going on here? And then even with John Connor as well, when he's introduced, He's working on his dirt bike, he hates his foster parents. He's clearly like quite troubled, but then also quite mature in a way as well. And even Miles Dyson as well. So he's a really interesting one where obviously he is like the Skynet representative, right? So he represents Judgment Day, all this awfulness that is coming, that, what Sarah Connor believes is going to happen. But he's just like this really chill, really sweet, like just a nerdy guy, right? Who's just like obsessed with science and obsessed with discovery. And he gets so excited about the things, like he's so excited about the robot's arm and the chip and all these things that he's working on. And I thought that was really interesting as well, because you've got Skynet as a villain or as the enemy, I just think is brilliant. And I think we touched on this in Terminator Salvation as well. And then, so to have him as just like, he's just this chill dude who will eventually destroy the world because of what he's doing.
By accident, basically.
They were all just brilliant.
Yeah.
And it was just something that I really noticed about the character introductions. And then all the characters I really like. And I think all the performances are pretty good as well. Do you have any thoughts on that, Josh? Is that something you'd thought about?
No, absolutely, yes. So you're totally right. Like, all the character introductions and that are great in this. And that goes back to... So this film is full of action movie cliches, right?
Yeah.
Which have been parodied and reused and done to death in other films, except in this, it works so well because whether it's... And it's not... I was going to say because it must have been the first one to do it, but I bet it's not. It's like it's like, have you ever seen anything that parodies stuff like this? Like, say, for example, Rick and Morty, the whole "you son of a bitch." Like, I know that's from Predator and stuff like that, but there are so many cliches in this film, except they work because it's almost not self-referential, so it isn't tongue-in-cheek, but I can't really, I suppose what I'm trying to say is it feels authentic. It doesn't feel cheesy. It feels cool. It feels authentically cool and authentically gripping in that sense. But you're right. The character introductions in this are really great. The one thing I noticed was that if you were going into this on opening night in 1991, having seen the first one from the 80s, obviously now we know the plot of the film, but then presumably the the introduction of Arnie's character is written, so you think, like you said then, oh, another villainous Terminator's come.
Yes, exactly.
And
So
then
then you think, is the T-1000,
and then the T-1000
is he the hero?
is,
you know?
think, is he the hero? And because at that point, they've already said they've sent 2 back, haven't they? They've sent 2
Yeah.
back, one to kill John Connor and one to save John Connor and all that. So when you see the T-1000, he's much more human. He's not like, he doesn't act robotically. Which, obviously, all of these things are purposeful choices by James Cameron and the other writers. So he's much more human. He dresses as a police officer, which is probably a comment in itself. And yeah, so obviously people must have thought Arnie's the villain again, and Robert Patrick's character Terminator is going to be the hero Terminator. So when you have that moment where they switch and Arnie is walking with the shotgun and he's
with the shotgun in the box of flowers, and then the roses fall out and he steps on the roses and they crunch and out comes this massive shotgun. Oh, it's just brilliant. And then it's all in slow-mo as well. And then he's got John and then he turns around so he's protecting him, and then the T-1000 is like pumping him full of bullets. Yeah, sick, man.
But there must have been people, mustn't there, who genuinely, like, that is a plot twist. It's just that the film has been around so long that we know that it's not. So I went into this knowing that, but at the time, so I'd never thought about that before in terms of the context, the wider context of the film. But no, it's just great, Alice. It's just a good fun blockbuster time. It's definitely up there as one of the most perfect blockbusters. The only reason I'd say it wasn't the most perfect blockbuster is nothing to do with the quality of the film. It's probably more to do with it edges more towards the darker side. So when I'm always thinking of what's the perfect blockbuster, I'm always thinking at the PG end, because I think
more family,
the broader the appeal,
oriented.
Something can't be a perfect blockbuster if it's only for people who are 15 and up. People might disagree with me on that, but that's where I swing on that particular argument. The whole idea of what's the perfect film, and people say The Godfather, and I always say, but that's an 18, so it's for 18 and up. So for me, I think cinema's all about how can the most amount of people enjoy blockbuster cinema, should I say. Obviously, there's plenty of other uses of cinema in terms of social and political messages and, little stories and slice of life stories, which I really like, which I've talked about. But if you're talking about big hitters, big blockbuster hitters, for me, it's, well, how can the most amount of people enjoy this, I suppose. So, but back to what you were saying, no, the performances are great. I mean, the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't really have to do anything, yet still makes quite a convincing robot. It's just a testament to him. I mean,
perfect casting. And then Robert Patrick is just phenomenal. Like, he is terrifying, and he's just a dude in a cop's uniform. Do you know what I mean? His eyes, the way he looks, the way he holds himself. And there's this brilliant moment where, after he's looking for John in the arcade, and then John realizes what's happening, so he runs outside and hops on his bike. So then John starts riding off on like this dirt bike, I think it is, that he's got, and then the T-1000 starts running after him, and you're like, fucking hell. And I find that really threatening, because it's like, you can't get away. It's like he's just gonna run after you. That is how powerful he is, sort of thing.
He's an unstoppable object, basically.
He is
But, he's And Robert Patrick, I know he has done other stuff, but he's definitely best known for this, isn't he?
I mean, I think so. So I know that I've seen his face in something, but I couldn't tell you what it is, and I don't think I could name another film that he's in.
Well, I know he's in Spy Kids. If that's
I've not
it,
seen that.
He has done loads and loads of stuff, because he's done
Yeah.
quite a bit of telly as well. I know he was in Peacemaker, which came out earlier this year. He was really good in that. I know he's been he's in Community. He's got a little cameo in Community.
Is he? Yeah, I haven't noticed that. I'll have to go back and have a look.
But no, he's great in this. And like you say, one of the whole things with Arnold Schwarzenegger is, and forgive me if this is not in line with what you think, but he's not a good actor. He's not like or I suppose it's not that he's not a good actor. It's not like what you would think of as an actor. He's not. He's not a chameleon, is he? He's not slipping in and out of different people. You're watching an Arnold Schwarzenegger film because you're expecting certain things.
Action, guns, muscles, throwing people around.
Yeah.
But you saying that Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't a good actor hurts me more than the fact that Keanu Reeves isn't a good actor.
Yeah.
Like, that hurts me more, and I don't know why. I know
think Keanu Reeves is a good
it's
actor.
true. Do you? Yeah.
Keanu Reeves
you're
is a good
alone in
actor.
that. Is
he? He's given some shit performances.
Yeah.
But so have the greatest actors.
I love Keanu, but I'm not convinced by him as an actor at all. I just enjoy seeing him on screen. He's such a laugh. But I think the thing with Arnie is he's just always so perfectly cast.
Yeah.
And I think that really sort of does a lot of the heavy lifting for him in places perhaps where his acting would fall down. I do want to talk about Edward Furlong for a little bit. So
Let's
John
go.
Connor.
Let's talk about...
There's a real risk here. So you include a child in it, right? So he's the prophesized child. So, you know, he is a very important character, but you put a child in a more mature film, a more adult film like this, you risk losing a lot of your audience because it's like, oh, I don't really care, don't connect to this kid. You know, a lot of child actors, some child actors, their performances can be, I suppose, quite unconvincing, and then that can really leave you sort of feeling a bit hollow, I think, when you watch them. But I just think he does such a fabulous job. So John has obviously not had a normal childhood. Like, we learn through various bits of dialogue that Sarah's been taking him every which way all over the world, like gathering weapons and training and preparing for Judgment Day and for these robots to come back and that. And he's just obviously exhausted with it. Like, you really feel like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. And I just thought it was brilliant. And then he's got this beautiful moment where when he realizes who the T-800 is, and he's like, oh my God, you are real. Like, my mum was right, sort of thing. Because obviously he speaks about the way that she speaks about the Terminators, not like necessarily disbelieving of her, but he doubts her,
Not
obviously.
convinced.
But he's been so he's not convinced, but he's been so heavily brainwashed by her. And then he just has this moment where he's like, holy shit, you're actually real. This is real. I am this, chosen one that my mum's always told me about. And he looks so much younger than I remember as well. I was like, oh my God.
How old is John meant to be in this?
Well, I'm not sure. I always thought he was 12. But I'll just have a little look. Let's have a look. You keep talking, Josh.
Because I think the point is that, like, back to what you were saying there, is he feels older. He feels. I'm not saying he feels like a 50-odd-year-old man or whatever. But the whole point is he's older than his years because he's been forced to grow up because of what his mum has made him go through. And I think that Edward Furlong does carry it across really, really well as being quite likable and as well at the same time. So I think you're right.
Definitely.
I think he is good in this as well.
Says that he's 10 years old, so he is.
Bollocks.
He's John Connor, yeah,
he's
10 years
not
old, yeah.
10 in this.
Yeah.
I thought about 14.
Oh, really? Well, when I watched it when I was a kid, I thought about that age. But now watching it back, like, he's still got such a baby face.
Well,
like, he's still such a young child.
Even more so if he's meant to be 10. I was thinking he was 14 or 15 in this.
Yeah.
So even more so then.
He's just got to go through so much, hasn't he? And I got a lot of time for him. And as far as like child characters and child actors go, I just think he did such a fabulous job. So a lot of this film for me, there's just like so many great moments that just make up the whole thing, like so many great moments. And I can't go into them all because there's literally so many of them. But everything has just been so well thought out and like written and designed to be the absolute best that it could possibly be, right? So one of my favourite moments is when Sarah is trying to escape. So she's trying to escape from the hospital, right? And we've got this moment where everyone sort of meets up and everyone's trying to get to the same place. So you've got the T-800 and John who are also trying to get to the hospital to break her out. And then you've got the T-1000 who's figured out where they're going and he turns up as well. So like there's this brilliant showdown in the hospital and then she's running down the corridors and she's running towards the lift to try and escape. And there, out the lift, walks the T-800, the thing that has like terrorized her dreams for the past 10 years or however long. And she sees it. And then obviously John's there as well. And then it's like, what the fuck is going on? And then the T-800 says, come with me if you want to live, which is obviously what Carl Reese said to her in the first film. So they've used that bit of dialogue. It's just like the immediate thing of, you can trust me and I am on your side because I'm going to say this thing to you that I know Kyle Reese said to you. And then from there, she just kind of she just kind of has to trust that John sort of knows what he's doing. You know, the fact that John has been with this guy for however long and is still alive is obviously a good thing. But she has got to unlearn so much. She's got to just not think of him as a threat, not think of him as the bad guy. And I just feel like that would be so hard. And then, she sees him coming out the lift and then she falls down and then she runs away, but then she runs right back to where the T-1000 is. It is just such a brilliant scene and it's so well constructed. The drama, the tension.
It's definitely,
it was just great.
That bit's definitely a standout moment from Linda Hamilton as well. Because she has a lot to do in this film. She carries a lot of the film. She has a lot more of the dialogue than Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff like that. And she has to do a lot more of what you might call traditional sort of acting in terms of emoting and stuff like that, rather than the actual action scenes, although she has some great action scenes as well. But that moment, she really earns earns a crust at that point, really, uses her chops because she looks, she's a professional actor, she's brilliant, but she looks mortified, terrified as he walks.
She looks the part, doesn't she?
To the point
100%.
where it looks like she's running back into the arms of the doctors, as if fucking hell, I'd rather be in there.
Yeah, you hadn't thought of it like that.
Than shoot me full of all the drugs you've got and just put me in the cell and leave me there, because I'd rather have that than have to deal with this monster. Because, like you say, in the first one, he's the bad guy, he's the monster, and that callback, "Come with me if you want to live." It's just great. And I don't even know if I've seen the first one. I can't remember. I've definitely seen a lot of it, but I've never sat down and watched it from start to finish. I know that's a callback, but at the same time, you still enjoy it if you haven't seen the first one. And I think that there is probably a great proportion of people who haven't seen the first one who have seen this one. And that, again, another genius of the film, a little bit like what James Cameron did with Aliens. You don't have to have seen the first one to enjoy this one. It's its own self-contained action, sci-fi adventure film, and it's not an easy task to do that when it's following on from another film. But no, it's great. So what is your favourite action scene in the film then?
So there's so there are two front runners, and I'll just talk them through with you, and then maybe when I finish saying them out loud, I'll come to a conclusion. So the first one is obviously the big main one at the beginning, where the T-1000 is chasing John Connor. He's in a truck and John is on his little dirt bike, and then obviously the T-800 sees what's happening and then joins in on his big motorbike as well. So you've got this great chase, this really long action sequence where there's not a lot of dialogue, if any at all, but it doesn't get boring, it doesn't get tired. The practical effects, like the stunts and everything, like it's just everything has been so well thought out and so well planned. And they're going down that, like, I don't even know what it is, these things that they have in America, but looks like that there should have been a river there, but there wasn't a river there. I think it's something
to do with drainage.
Yeah.
And flooding. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a city planner or whatever, but I know what you mean. The famous LA thing where they drive up and down. It almost looks like a vert ramp, a skate ramp, and cars drive on it.
Yeah, I think this in Greece and stuff. Yeah, isn't it? You see them as well.
They're all over the show. I think it's something to do with drainage. But anyway, the bit there, everyone knows the bit you're talking about.
Yeah, of course. And then as it goes on, the truck is getting more and more like destroyed and stuff because he's just driving it under bridges where he can't fit, and then sort of driving off of bridges and then just sort of landing into the floor, and it's so crashed up and messed up and everything, and it looks great. And also during that one as well, obviously the T-800 picks John up off of his bike as they're moving, so they're traveling at high speeds, and then the T-800 gets in line with John, picks him up by his rucksack and just pops him on his motorbike next to him. Thought that was hilarious.
Like he weighs nothing. Weighs
so good.
Nothing. And they probably did that.
Quite possibly.
Like, Arnie just went, I'll just pick him up, don't worry about it.
I'll just pick him up.
Is it it might be this one or it might be the third one where he picks up a minigun and it was so heavy that he was the only one who could move it.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it is this one. It's like, as in, like, how did they get it there? Like, did he move it from the prop place to the... It's mad. Anyway, so that's your first scene.
That's the first one. The second one is, so obviously there's a lot going on in like this steel like factory or, steel melting place, whatever it may be, at the end. And there's, it's a great big long sequence in this, but the best moment of that whole sequence is when the T-1000 is pretending to be Sarah Connor. He has taken her form and he's walking towards John and he's going like, oh, John, come here, help me, it's me, and all this, blah, blah, blah. And then John's like, he's a bit smarter than that. He's like, oh, I'm not too sure. I don't know if I should believe you. And then behind the fake Sarah Connor comes the real Sarah Connor, covered in blood and sweat and looking disheveled. And she's got bullet wounds and she's cut up and all this. And she's just got this fucking massive shotgun or whatever it is. And she uses it, like, I think one-handed at first to blow a hole in him and then just starts pumping him full of lead and like walking towards him. And he gets so close to nearly just like falling in the lava or this melted steel, whatever it is. And then it doesn't quite happen. And you're like, oh my God. And you feel that, like you feel that it so much with her.
Like, and she's like,
and then it's over.
One shot.
It's over. Yeah. What do you do? Oh, so good. And then obviously it all goes well in the end because Arnie rolls up on like some it's like an industrial cog or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
It sort of rolls up. I don't know what it is, like a warehouse train track or whatever. And he just rolls up and he's in a bad way as well because he's been absolutely battered. So you've got half his robot face on show with his red eye and, his hair's all fucked up and his skin's all fucked up and he's only got one arm. But then he just blows it like this fucking explosive, but I don't know all the names of the guns, sorry, so I don't know all the different types of guns, but it's like a massive bullet that is just like a little bomb and just whoosh, gone. That is pretty cool. I think probably that one.
As I say, is it that
because
one?
you've got the fire and the lava as well. It's brilliant.
I think that's a good. So for me, mine is the first one. So there we go. I'll say the first one.
Sick, isn't it? Good chase scene, brilliant chase scene.
It's just the way he reloads that shotgun. I'm not into guns. I'm a pacifist. Do you know what I mean? But it is fucking cool when the way he reloads that shotgun by flipping it over or whatever it is he does. Yeah. It's so iconic. It's so cool. It's such a great action film. It feels so epic, and we'll come back to this in a second. But I think the way I could feel like the best way it sums up, and I don't think I do love this film as much as you, but I still like this film, is that the way it's constructed as a blockbuster. Every now and then, and I don't mean once a year, I'm talking maybe every couple of years, and even that's being generous, right? A film comes along and it is an event film. And it's usually a Star Wars would be one. And I wouldn't even say... So, for example, right, without getting into the sequel trilogy, when The Force Awakens came out, it was an event. People were going to the cinema who don't normally go to the cinema. Yeah,
I went to the cinema to watch Force Awakens and I'd never seen Star Wars before that film was coming out.
Perhaps, and again, I wouldn't even say like every Bond film, but a new Bond film, as in the first of a new Bond. Once every 5 years, maybe something like that. Endgame was probably one, an event film. This is one of them. This is an event film. This is a once every couple of years. People go in the cinema who wouldn't normally go to the cinema. This is my, take on it anyway. I mean, it's not even the highest grossing film of 1991, I don't think. It might be. I'm not too sure. I'd have to check it. But it's an event film. It stands the test of time. And it does. And that brings me on to the effects, which I know you're going to want to talk about. But man, those effects are 30 years old. And
pretty good.
Okay.
They're pretty good, aren't they, Josh?
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
Some of them have aged better than others. But for me, they all still more or less hold up.
Yeah. All the stuff with the T-1000 is brilliant. Like how he changes form. He'll change from being like a fully sort of silver kind of liquidy looking creature to looking like, John's foster mum, or his arms will become blades, and then other things like him being in the floor, and then he comes up through the floor. And then one of the most brilliant things visually and so spectacular is obviously when he gets frozen by liquid nitrogen and then Arnie shatters him with a bullet. That is brilliant. And not only that, this is the thing with this film, when you think that something's almost been wrapped up, there's more to it, right? So he gets shattered and blasts into a billion pieces, but then, he melts and then they all start gathering and it's terrifying, right? It's literally just liquid, obviously it looks like mercury, I remember from science class, and it's just this liquid all coming together, right? But because of the build up to that point, you feel the gravity of the situation. Like it's not traditionally a scary thing to look at. It's like there's some liquid metal all coming together, but it's the meaning behind it.
The inevitability, isn't it? The inevitability of whatever you do,
he is
you can't
inevitable.
stop him. You cannot stop him.
Yeah, there are so many times where they think like, oh yeah, we've got away, or oh yeah, this will be the killer blow or whatever, and it just isn't. And it's similar a little bit to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, when there's those police officers or the Federation or whoever it is on horses, and they're bearing down on them.
Hunting
it's that
them,
sort of feeling. Yes, you are prey being hunted by this predator.
It's how long. It's not will you win. It's how long will you last.
How long can you last?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, it adds like a different, like the stakes just feel so high, like everything just feels so tense. You just really feel like you're in there with the characters, and everything that James Cameron has done contributes towards that, I think.
And that in itself, the fact that the villain is so well done, and he doesn't have loads of lines. He has a few sort of at the beginning, but actually as the film goes on, he barely speaks. He feels like an unstoppable force that's just, it's going to get you. Whatever happens, it's going to get you. But because that's done so well, it then makes Arnie seem even more heroic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's just so well done. I wish James Cameron would go back to doing these. Or films like these rather than Avatar.
Yeah, I think I don't need to see any more Terminator. I don't need any more Terminator
They
films.
will keep making them.
Show me there.
They'll keep making them.
Well, of course they will.
Keep trying.
But James has shown me there, Jim, to his friends, he's shown me there that the skill and the craft that he is able to put into something to create almost a perfect film because of the script, because of the way it looks, because of the way the characters interact with one another. Like, it's all there to create a great film. So it can be done. And I wonder if he could do it again, but with, different characters, a different story, etc. And, I'm not the biggest fan of Avatar. Like, I mean, I'll go and see the new one just to kind of see what it's all about or whatever. But like, there's a lot of story missing in those films, and he's really sacrificed, like, the quality of the script and the character development for something that looks nice. And it does look nice.
It looks amazing.
Phenomenal. But you're missing so much there.
It's the only thing I could say about the first Avatar is it looks incredible.
Love the big blue people.
I didn't like it. It was boring.
No, it's not.
It looks incredible.
And it's just weird because, we've seen what James Cameron can do. So it was just a shame that isn't what this was.
Yeah.
Just run off a couple of last points as well, because otherwise I will go on. So I love the kind of evolution of the vehicles as we go, right? So we start off with, T800 on a motorbike, John Connor on a dirt bike, and the T1000 in a great big lorry. He then gets he gets the police car first, and then a big lorry. And then he gets a motorbike at some point, and then he gets a helicopter. And I just love, like, with sort of every act of the film almost, they've got new vehicles, right? And you've got the T800, they steal a couple of cars. They end up they use a police van, I think, that they get when they're doing the blowing up Skynet with Miles Dyson. And then eventually they're in like a pizza delivery, like little truck and stuff. And I just thought that was really cool. And I just really like I don't even know if it's attention to detail, but I suppose the effort that has gone into getting all those vehicles and putting them in the film at very specific times.
The escalation of the vehicle.
Yeah.
It's like in Looney Tunes when they chase each other with weapons, and like one would run from one side of the screen with a gun, and then it would be a cannon, and then a bigger cannon, and then a bigger cannon.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
It's like that.
It's almost it's almost like a cartoon. But that is how you do action, isn't it? Slow escalations towards a massive big spectacle of a finale sort of thing. But you're right. Anyway, what else? You obviously got other points that you want to get in there. So,
well, I think I'm just gonna sort of end this section with just some general thoughts. I think here you go, listeners. It's Alice Hour. I'm going to talk to you all about why I love Terminator 2. So obviously, I saw this film a lot when I was a child, and I know that there is a lot of nostalgia connected to that. And I am self-aware enough to know that this may influence how I do feel about the film. And I was a tad a tad nervous, but mostly excited about watching it again for this. And overall, I was just so impressed. Like even the things that maybe I'd never considered whilst watching it as a kid, I just thought were brilliant now. Back then it was more about the spectacle. It was about kind of thinking that Arnold Schwarzenegger was just the coolest thing ever and thinking that, John Connor was such a cute boy and, oh, I wish he could be my boyfriend sort of thing. This is when I was like 7 or 8. So, all good. And Sarah Connor just being this absolute like badass, like, and obviously she isn't insane, is she? This is the problem. It's like they think she's insane because of the way she talks, and she talks about these events and it makes her sound mad, but she isn't. So the way that she kind of sustains herself between the first film and the second film, like so much must have happened there. And we see her in the first one, like, she's this very sweet, very timid, like very kind, 80s hairdo and like, a pink top and blue jeans and all this. And then you get her in the second film and she's like a completely different fucking person. Like she's like an animal at times. Like her determination is just almost borders on animalistic. And she's just so hellbent on this mission of stopping Judgment Day. And seeing her in the hospital and stuff and just the state that she's in and finding out that she's, stabbed one of the guards in the leg with a pen. Like she just doesn't quit. She doesn't quit. Like she tries a little bit to be like, yes, I'm fine. I don't believe in the Terminator anymore. Please release me from this fucking hospital. But she can't keep it up. She has to be true to herself. Like she just can't ignore her true nature sort of thing. It's a brilliantly told story. It's got some great special effects in there. It's got some great performances. It's got some great script. And weirdly, some really tender and sweet moments between a robot and a 10-year-old boy that aren't sickeningly sweet. They're not too cheesy. Like they just feel kind of natural. And obviously hearing Arnie say things like no problemo and all that, like it should be daft and it should be silly and you should be going, oh, this is stupid. But it just isn't. And I don't know what it is, just the magic of the film.
So that's what I think. One of the things I want to come back to something I said there because I think I've not been true to myself in something I'm saying, which is I sort of said there like Arnie's not the strongest actor, and I don't mean it like what I mean is in terms of like emoting. We all know you can't get rid of his Austrian accent.
Of course, and we wouldn't want him to.
So he's very, very good at what he does, and I don't mean he's a bad actor. He's very good at what he does, and I understand. You only have to watch The Last Action Hero or something like that to know he's happy to send himself up and do him doing Shakespeare, and people obviously going, well, he can play Hamlet or whatever. So he's not what you think of as a traditional, classically trained, whatever you want to call it, actor. Don't mean he's a bad actor by any means. I mean he's good. Maybe I suppose you could say he's limited. I don't know. But what he is incredibly good at, and I think what he's probably better at than a lot of other actors, is chemistry with his co-stars. Whatever he's in, you fully believe in True Lies that him and Jamie Lee Curtis like love each other and like are married and like he loves his daughter and all that sort of stuff, and he's just beyond anything, and I think possibly beyond any other actor, certainly superstar level actor. He is so likable. I think so anyway.
Yeah, I mean I completely agree. Like I'm a huge Arnie fan. I think I've spoken about it before. Do you know what I mean?
But, you were in the middle of saying something there. So before we move on, final thoughts then, give it to us.
Well, I feel like that those were my final thoughts. Really, I don't. There's just so much to like about this film. Just like the way it has been designed and put together is brilliant. The way that the plot points kind of move along, the way the story moves along, how we get from A to B and then to C and then to D. And it's just very clever and it just really flows. And it's just my favourite film in the whole world. And I don't know what else to say, Josh. It's just, I'm so happy that you got me, that you said that I could talk about this film. I'm very grateful. And I'm so happy that you seem to like it a lot as well.
Okay, then let's move on to talking about things that we perhaps didn't like about the film or that we would change about the film. Now, you're looking nervous, Alice. You're looking a little nervous there. Like I'm gonna pull the rug out from under your feet.
No, I'm genuinely intrigued, honestly, to hear what you've got to say.
Okay, well let's go to you first, since it's your favourite film. Now I've been watched it again. Now I didn't realise it had been a little while since you've watched it. I mean, I genuinely, I'm really interested to know what was there anything that you thought, oh, actually,
There was.
oh,
So I managed.
I'm
I
really,
managed.
really
to
surprised.
find,
I'm really surprised.
Yeah, you know what? No, we're all about balance here. I am a journalist at my core, and therefore we must be
Integrity is
balanced
what
at
we've
all
got here.
times.
Integrity.
So there are 3 things that I am going to mention. First one is it's very, very obvious when stunt doubles are being used.
Right.
This wasn't something that I noticed as a child. It is something I notice now. However, the sort of catch to that is it just reminds you that everyone's doing stunts, right?
Yeah.
We're not on a green screen. This hasn't been CGI'd. I'm actually going to ride this motorbike through this fire sort of thing. So you can see when it's stunt doubles, like John Connor's stunt double is like so tall, so much taller than he is. So
Children's stunt doubles. Like it's
tricky.
It's tricky, but also it's fucking funny, isn't it? If you get you get a little freeze frame, you're like, that's not Edward Furlong.
I know. And it's not something that I ever noticed as a child. But yes, of course, I'm looking for that sort of stuff this time around. So I noticed that. The other thing that the probably the worst thing about this film is when they have just run out. I think it's when they've just run out from sort of breaking Sarah out of the hospital facility thing. And then the T-1000 sort of latches onto the back of their car with, he changes his arms into like sort of like hooks or whatever. So then he's hanging on the back of the car and you see the scene where the car's driving away and then his body's kind of swinging from side to side. It's so obviously a dummy. Like it literally just looks like they've got like a cop outfit and shoved some pillows in it sort of thing. Like it isn't the best. It's not the best sort of use of a special
like
effect.
A practical effect, I think.
Practical effect, yeah. And then beyond that, there is a little bit of exposition dumping, particularly with Sarah Connor's, like her narration / her internal monologue sort of thing. And at times this got this borderline and was a little bit cheesy at times, right? But it wasn't enough, like it's not going to put me off the film, do you know what I mean? But it was just, they were the things that I did notice this time. And in the interest of balance, they are things that I think more work could have been done. Say more work. I know. No, I don't mean that.
Jim,
I'm so
Jim,
sorry,
can
James.
I have a word? Listen, more work
Jimmy
was needed, eh?
No, I phrased that incorrectly, I think. But you know where you can see, oh, that doesn't look great and that it doesn't look as good as the rest of the film sort of thing. But that was it. Those were the 3 things. So we'll come over to you next then, Josh. But be honest. Like, I want to have this debate. Yeah. Tell me, what do you think should have changed or you didn't like?
So there isn't loads for me. I do have stuff because like you, I want to be balanced, and I would be the same if we did my equivalent, and I don't even know what that would be, but anyway.
Empire Strikes Back, yeah?
No, probably wouldn't be Empire Strikes Back. No, I don't know what it'd be. Probably something like, and people are going to yawn at this, but probably something like The Dark Knight would be something like my equivalent of this.
That's not a big yawn. I thought you were going to say some like sort of French romantic drama or something. Everyone's going to hate
the
this.
60s films translated as Breathless, starring
Exactly.
I think people would yawn at that because I think analysis of The Dark Knight and as opposed to Act 1 post 9/11 paranoia analogy, people it's been done to death a little bit, which is one of the reasons why I've never picked it. But anyway. So in the interest of balance, there is a couple of things. The first thing, and it's not actually something that I didn't like. It's just it was a lot darker than I remember, and as in tone.
Oh.
So the bit where, and I'd seen this bit before, but the bit where she has the future, she has the sort of the nightmare where she burns to death. I was like, Jesus, that was a lot darker than I thought it was. So
really?
So I just had I knew that happened. I just didn't remember it being so visceral and so, I suppose, gruesome in a way. So if you're talking about this as the greatest blockbuster ever made, I've already touched on this, and I'm not going to hammer the point, but for me, it's probably too dark. Mm-hmm. But you could definitely have cut some stuff out and had it be that if you really wanted to appeal to a broader audience. But I'm not going to get into that now. So it was darker than I remember. That's not a criticism. It's just something I noticed. If I had one criticism, it would be that because I hadn't seen the first half an hour, or I couldn't remember the first half an hour, it was probably a little slow, like in the
Okay.
first half an hour or so. Like after
Alright.
after Arnie's come back, particularly the bit of her in the hospital, I found that it was a little. I think because I hadn't noticed it before, I thought it was like action, 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 action. Like I thought it was like akin to something like Speed. You know, from beginning to end, it's just non-stop. No one is still.
film, that.
No one.
Good film,
Yeah,
Speed.
no one is still for a moment in this film. But actually,
Mm.
there is a little bit of that and a little bit more character development for Sarah Connor. And I didn't dislike the character development or anything like that. I suppose I didn't go into it expecting that bit, and I thought I'd seen it from start to finish, and perhaps I hadn't seen that bit before. But I found that bit a little slow. But other than that, I really, a bit of sort of echoing what you said about some of the practical effects and stuff. But no.
Yeah, it's so minor.
yeah,
Isn't it? Like on the whole,
nothing
the
at all.
good is just so good. Just something funny as well. Just before we move on to the next section, so I hadn't considered really how funny this line is from the T1000. But when he goes to John Connor's foster parents' house, and they give him a picture of him, and he goes, "He's a good-looking boy. Do you mind if I keep this picture?" I was like, "Oh, that's weird."
You go. Yeah, no, I do mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I do mind that you've just called my
It's a
son
picture-
a
that is
good-looking
picture
boy.
of my son. So yeah. Go and take a copy of it. If you're a police officer, and then
Bad policing.
but anyway, but he's not a police officer because he's a killer robot. Okay, then. So let's move on to talking about the critical reception. This might be the most pointless critical reception we've ever done because it's completely irrelevant because it's not underrated.
I'm interested.
Well,
though.
you've not
I'm
picked it because you think it's
interested,
underrated. You've not picked it underseen.
No.
Essentially, this is the. We have done films before, haven't we? Where we've gone. I just want to talk about it. It's like when what did I do? Where people go, oh, I suppose I did True Lies. A lot of people were going, it's not underrated. I was like, I know.
But
it's
it
our
is a little bit
podcast. It's our
underseen.
podcast.
It is a bit
But-
underseen.
but,
Like I know you didn't necessarily pick it for that, but I couldn't fucking find
Exactly.
it anywhere. I've got all the streaming services,
Yeah.
Josh. I'm on them
The
all,
money
and
we
it wasn't
both
on
spend
any
on
of them.
bloody streaming services.
Don't even. Amazon Prime, what the fuck? What are you charging me £3.50 extra for? I've already registered to you. Do you know what I mean? But no, True Lies, I'm totally on your side with that. It is underseen because I couldn't fucking find it. Anyway, so I have seen the critical reception for this film
Okay.
at some point, right? Not recently. So I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure that it did all
Quite
right.
well, yeah.
Right?
So we're gonna
Yeah.
let's not. We don't even need to put a number on it. It's high. We know it's high.
Yeah.
So let's have a look now and let's see what you
Go
reckon
on.
because I'm intrigued.
I'm interested.
I'm interested to know what you think here because I think this might be a bit of a curveball. The time of recording on IMDb, it gets 8.6 out of 10.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I approve.
But at the time of recording on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience give it 95%.
Oh,
And the critics
gosh.
give it
Yeah.
93%, which averages out to 91%.
Wow.
So is it appropriately rated? Is it
Fucking hell. I mean,
overrated, Alice?
That's wild. I mean, I don't think if it's my favorite
I know,
film,
yeah, it's
then
like-
no, it can't be overrated, right? Surely that's appropriate for me. But yeah, in my head it was more like a high 7. Not that I would give it that. I would definitely
But
give
you
it
thought
higher.
like
but
if
I
you
thought
averaged it
that's what
out,
it got.
yeah,
That's big scores, man.
That's
isn't
heavy,
it?
that, isn't it?
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I bet it's a lot of people's favourite film then. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm not alone
But
in
also,
this.
I mean,
yeah, brilliant.
I was quite surprised that the critics give it 93.
Yeah,
Because you'd think they'd find some.
that's big.
As in, it's a brilliant film, but you'd think for this sort of film, they'd definitely find something to drag that down.
Well, I wonder as well if some of those reviews were written a bit later and they've
maybe.
seen Terminator 3 and Terminator 4 and Terminator 5 and Terminator 6 and they're like, fucking hell, these are not so good.
I
So
tried to
Terminator
watch
2 just seems
after we
much
did
better.
Salvation. It must have been on one of the streaming services, and the next one was also on the streaming service, which meant I think it just started. And it must have been like a Saturday afternoon or something, and I just thought, oh yeah, well, whatever, put it on. And it was Alice. It was fucking wank.
It's so bad, isn't it? So I tried.
fifth one,
I
I
have
think that
tried.
was.
I tried to watch Dark Fate.
So
and I tried to
they
watch
got Linda Hamilton
Genesis.
back for that one, didn't they?
Linda Hamilton is in that one, and then Genesis, I think, has got Amelia Clarke in it.
Yes, that's the
who
one
was
I watched.
Daenerys in
That's the
Game of
one I
Thrones.
watched.
So I tried to watch both those films, and I got about 20 minutes in with both of them, and I couldn't watch it anymore.
Not even
and
Arnie
that
can
was just
save
so
them
sad.
for you?
No, because he's not like you were saying before about having that chemistry and stuff. Like I just don't feel it. I don't feel it in those films at all. And it's like the joy and the beauty of the second film is that you've got this big reveal where it's like, wow, the bad guy from the first film isn't the bad guy anymore. So as soon as that's happened, there's nothing else for you here. Like this story is done and dusted. Again, like I said before, I've got a bit more time for Terminator Salvation, which is, very, very different. And sort of having seen Terminator Salvation, it does add a bit more gravity to Terminator 2 because you've actually seen what Judgment Day is, what this means, and it's fucking horrendous, right? The world in Terminator Salvation is awful, it's dry, it's great. Christian Bale is just having a shit time, do you know what I mean? So that one I have got a bit more time for, but with these other ones, it's like they're trying to recapture the thing that made Terminator good, and they're just failing all the time. And it's just a shame. Obviously, it's not like, I don't know if you can be annoyed at it because no one's forcing me to watch these films, but it's just, I suppose it's just weird to have films like Terminator and then Terminator 2 lumped in with these kind of awful money grabbing hollow, like void of any sort of depth and characterfulness and all this. Like it's just weird, and it is just another sort of sign that all that matters in Hollywood is cash. That is all we care about. We do not care about your artistic integrity. We do not care about shitting over all your old projects. Looking at Star Wars here, guys. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Though? And it's just
stop making Terminator films, and whilst you're at it,
stop, please.
Stop.
New content. Still do robots. You can still do robots.
There's a few sort of like, what would you call, like franchises or products that they keep churning out, and Terminator's one of them. Alien is one of them. I haven't seen the newest one, but I believe it's okay. But up until that, Predator is another one. They keep churning them out, and it's like, and I know some people like them, but it's like, come on, it's just like you say, it's like a cash grab, isn't it?
It is, and it feels like, and obviously I don't know, but it feels like they have to, because of the amount of money that's obviously involved, and now that DVDs don't exist, they have to make sure that they get some money back. And so the way you do that is you play on people's nostalgia. So you bring them something that is the same character as something that they saw when they were a child or something. And so it's like, right, well, if we remake this film, we're guaranteed to get all the diehard fans in anyway. And if we get a few new extra viewers, then great. So that's kind of, it feels like that's all they care about. And it is a business, and I get it. And, they've got to make money, and, everyone deserves all the money they get, like these actors, the directors, the crew, everyone works so hard, and I get it, and that's fine. But when that becomes your sole drive, people who actually care about film and people who actually like to analyze film, we can fucking see it, and it's gross, and I hate it. But that is the world we live in, and I appreciate, money is king. We're a capitalist culture. That's, I'm just going to have to get over that and just enjoy the things that I can enjoy, but then also go back and watch classic films like this one.
So then, before we wrap up, one last thought on Terminator 2. A sound. Give us a sound to sum up your feelings of Terminator 2.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. It's one of the best pieces of music ever, to be honest. Best piece of music ever.
Oh, well, there we go. Terminator 2.
We did it.
It's not underseen.
Long one, this, guys.
Not underrated.
It's going to be a slightly longer
it's a little
episode,
bit longer
this, guys, because I couldn't stop talking.
We're celebrating 100 episodes of Alice. She deserves it. She's brilliant. She's talked about Terminator 2. She loves it. It's not underseen. It's not underrated. Doesn't matter though, does it? Alice just wanted to talk about it, so here we are. And you're gonna ask me something?
No, I was just gonna say I'll stop talking about it now. I can stop bringing it up because I feel like I do bring it up a lot. Don't I? It's like, oh, Josh, I don't know if you knew, but I love
There's a little film
2.
that I like called Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
You might not know it, but, it's dead cult, and I just really know film.
Listen, have you seen Donnie Darko? It's a bit like that before everybody, and then everyone liked Donnie Darko, so it's like.
I was the first.
Yeah,
I was 8 years old when I fell in love with this film.
totally got the ending of Donnie Darko. Anyway, Well, thank you very much for listening to this slightly longer episode. Of course, thank you, Alice, for being my brilliant co-host, and hope you enjoyed talking about Terminator 2. We will be back next week with another episode talking about Terminator 3. No, we'll be back next week talking about another episode. We'll be back next week, talking about another film. In the meantime, if you'd like to get in touch with us, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. All the social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Just search for Just Films and That wherever you get your social medias. And of course, we're on the television, aren't we, Alice?
Of course, we are, Josh. We are on the local TV network every Friday from 6 p.m. So if you live in Birmingham, Bristol, Leeds, Liverpool, or the northeast of England, you can find us on Channel 7 on Freeview. Or if you live in North Wales or South Wales, you can find us on Channel 8 on Freeview. Or if you live anywhere in the country, you can find us on Sky on Channel 188. That's every Friday night from 6 p.m. Me and Josh get together and talk about some of our favourite underrated and underseen films. You don't want to miss it.
Yes, all that remains to be said is cheerio. It's goodbye from me. And Alice, give us the music one last time.
Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do.